Understanding threats, vulnerabilities, and best practices for secure blockchain ecosystems. This video details how companies can safely implement blockchain by first mapping risks to specific use cases and evaluating them through structured assessment frameworks and mitigation strategies. It then covers the critical operational layers of compliance, outlining internal security policies, regulatory considerations, and the vital role of third-party security audits. Because blockchain's irreversible nature and shared infrastructure mean unmanaged risks instantly become permanent losses, robust risk management is now a critical board-level requirement. Regulators and insurers demand a documented strategic framework, proving that basic technical controls are no longer enough to protect a business. We now analyze some use cases and their potential security risks. In DeFi and payments, the risk profile shifts toward critical technical vulnerabilities like smart contract flaws, oracle manipulation, and bridge or custody exploits. For supply chain use cases, the risk profile shifts toward physical to digital vulnerabilities, including garbage-in data integrity issues, IoT sensor tampering at the source, and multi-party permission sprawl. In identity and healthcare use cases, the primary dangers pivot to severe data and access liabilities, specifically the irreversible exposure of PII, permanent lockout from accounts due to key loss, and complex cross-border data residency violations. At the protocol layer, businesses must evaluate risks inherent to their chosen platform, focusing specifically on consensus design flaws, base chain vulnerabilities, and network-level threats like 51% attacks. Moving to the smart contract layer, organizations must scrutinize the business logic encoded directly on-chain, as this layer represents the most common source of exploitable, high-impact bugs. At the integration layer, risk maps directly to the APIs. Oracles, bridges, and off-chain systems that connect the blockchain to the rest of the enterprise's legacy infrastructure. Finally, at the user and operations layer, the focus centers on key management, access control, and human behavior, which frequently serves as the weakest link in practice. A practical risk assessment starts by cataloging assets, actors, data flows, and trust boundaries across the blockchain solution to pinpoint where risks truly lie. A practical risk assessment process then moves to the evaluation phase. Assess each identified threat by scoring its likelihood and impact using a consistent, repeatable scale to prioritize response efforts objectively. The risk assessment process also involves treating each prioritized risk, selecting whether to mitigate, transfer, accept, or avoid it based on its score and business context. Finally, the risk assessment process stays live by monitoring residual risk and control effectiveness on an ongoing basis, adapting as the blockchain system evolves. Core mitigation strategies combine on-chain and off-chain defenses, enforce least privilege access, build circuit breakers for active incidents, and transfer residual risk via insurance where technical controls fall short. A comprehensive blockchain security policy must cover key management, defining generation, storage, rotation, and recovery procedures for private keys, alongside access governance, multi-sig thresholds, and approval workflows for upgrades and other actions. It should also include an incident response plan with clear roles, escalation paths, and on-chain playbooks, plus a vendor and node policy setting standards for evaluating node operators, custodians, and infrastructure providers. User education guards the perimeter against phishing and social engineering, stressing that on-chain transfers are irreversible. Role-specific training, such as secure coding for developers, wallet hygiene for finance, risk literacy for executives, must be reinforced with periodic phishing simulations and tabletop exercises. Blockchain security breaches trigger financial regulatory exposure, as on-chain AML/KYC duties, custody/exchange licensing, and travel rule data sharing all require compliance even during incidents or risk enforcement actions. Blockchain breaches clash with data protection rules, GDPR erasure rights, conflict with immutability, cross-border residency limits, node placement, and strict breach notification timelines are hard to meet on-chain. A blockchain breach magnifies securities and contract risks, threatening token classification, challenging smart contract enforceability, and exposing decentralized autonomous organizations, DAOs, to jurisdictional uncertainty. After a security breach, legal exposure rises on many fronts. Regulators may require prompt disclosure, contracts and SLAs can shift financial liability, and directors and officers face greater personal risk if governance or risk management is deemed deficient. Cross-border complexity worsens this as one incident can trigger overlapping and sometimes conflicting obligations in every region where the system or its users reside. To reduce legal risk after a security breach, involve legal and compliance teams when designing any blockchain solution and set pre-agreed breach response procedures to limit liability and speed up incident response. A smart contract audit starts by defining the contracts and dependencies in scope and setting a threat model tailored to the project's specific risks. A smart contract audit combines automated analysis with line-by-line expert review to catch both common vulnerabilities and subtle logic flaws. A smart contract audit's testing phase uses unit fuzz scenario tests to validate contract behavior under normal and adversarial conditions. A smart contract audit ends with a report ranking findings by severity, guiding remediation, and followed by a verification pass to confirm all issues are resolved. Blockchain security risk varies by use case. Adapt NIST, ISO 27001, or FAIR instead of starting from scratch. Treat internal policy and user education as real controls, involve legal early, and rely on audits as reinforcement, not replacement, for your own risk management. Thank you for your attention.